I've watched the world change from a small office to the center of a global shift, and I've seen a quiet, uncomfortable truth take hold. We are living in a time where the traditional link between effort and reward has been severed. You were likely told that if you worked hard, saved your money, and played by the rules, the system would take care of you. That was the social contract of the 20th century, but it is 2026, and that contract has been torn up. Most people are still running on a treadmill that is moving backward faster than they can sprint. They feel it in the cost of their groceries, the price of their homes, and the shrinking value of their time. They think they just need to work more hours, take a second job, or find a higher salary. They don't realize that the ground beneath them has shifted. The game has changed, but the players are still using a rulebook from 30 years ago. If you continue to believe that your labor alone will save you, you are making a dangerous bet against a machine that does not sleep and does not tire. Why is it that the hardest working people often have the least to show for it? It isn't a lack of discipline. It is a lack of understanding. We are witnessing a transition where human effort is being decoupled from the creation of wealth. If you are reading this, you are likely feeling the weight of a system that seems designed to keep you stationary. You feel the envy of seeing others move ahead while you remain stuck, despite your best efforts. You might even feel like it is too late for you to change course. I am here to tell you that it is not too late, but it is urgent. The window to understand the new physics of money is closing. If you stay until the end of this discussion, you will see exactly why your current path is leading to a dead end, and how the global architecture of wealth has been rebuilt while you were busy working. This is not about motivation. It is about survival in a world that no longer values your sweat as much as it values your position in the system. If you want to see the world as it actually is, not as you were told it would be, we need to look deeper. To understand why your hard work is failing you, we have to look at the architecture of the world we live in. Most people see the economy through the lens of their paycheck. They think of money as a reward for their time, but a billionaire looks at the world and sees a massive interconnected plumbing system. If you don't understand where the pipes are leaking, it doesn't matter how much water you pour in. The first thing you must realize is that we are living at the end of a long-term debt cycle. This isn't just about the current year. It is a pattern that is repeated throughout history. In 1929, in the 1970s, and in 2008, the system we inhabit is fueled by credit. When the world wants to grow, it doesn't wait to earn the money, it borrows it from the future. For decades, we have been pulling tomorrow's prosperity into today, but eventually, tomorrow arrives and the bill comes due. When the government and central banks find themselves buried under mountains of debt they can never truly repay, they have only a few choices. They can default, which causes a collapse, or they can devalue the currency. Throughout history, they almost always choose devaluation. They print more money to pay off the old debts. This is the silent erosion I spoke of earlier. It is an invisible tax on your labor. Think of your hard work as a battery. You spend your energy today to store value for the future, but the system is designed to leak. Every time the money supply expands, the charge in your battery decreases. This is why a house that cost $30,000 in the 1970s now costs $500,000. The house didn't get better or more valuable in a functional sense. The currency used to measure it simply became weaker. If you are working for a fixed salary, you are trading your finite time for a currency that is being intentionally diluted by the people who manage the system. This brings us to the Great Divide. In the old world, the one your parents lived in, inflation was a nuisance, but productivity usually kept pace. If you worked harder, you could stay ahead of the rising costs. But that link broke in the early 1970s. Since then, productivity has soared. fueled by computers and now AI, but wages for the average person have remained nearly flat when adjusted for the true cost of living. Where did all that extra value go? It didn't disappear, it moved. It moved from the people who provide labor to the people who own the assets. In a system built on debt and money printing, the winners are always the ones closest to the printing press. When new money enters the system, it flows first to big banks, corporations, and wealthy investors. They use that money to buy up assets, real estate, stocks, and technology before the prices rise. By the time that money reaches you in the form of a paycheck, the prices of everything you need to buy have already gone up. You are catching the tail end of the wave while the elite are riding the crest. We are now in a phase where this process is accelerating. In 2026, the global debt is so high that the system requires constant injections of liquidity just to keep from collapsing. This means the debasement of your hard work is happening faster than ever before. Leverage acts like gravity in this system. If you own assets, the system pulls you upward. If you rely on wages, the system pulls you down. Most people are taught to fear debt, and for good reason. Consumer debt is a trap. But the wealthy use debt as a tool to acquire the very things that inflation will make more expensive. They are shorting the currency while you are saving it. The old advice, save 10% of your income and put it in a savings account, is no longer a strategy for success. It is a strategy for a slow financial death. In the 1980s, you could get 10% interest on a bank account. Today, after taxes and true inflation, your real return is often negative. You are paying the bank for the privilege of watching your purchasing power disappear. You have to understand that the market is not the economy. The economy is where you work and buy groceries. The market is where the system prices the assets that the wealthy own. Often the market does well precisely because the economy is struggling and the government is forced to print more money to help. This is why, during the worst crises of the last 20 years, we saw billionaire wealth explode while the average person lost their home. The system isn't broken. It is functioning exactly as it was designed to. It is a machine that transfers the value of human labor into the hands of asset owners. If you are feeling exhausted, it is because you are fighting against the physics of this machine. You are trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom, and the hole is getting wider every year. To survive this, you have to stop looking at your paycheck as your primary source of wealth and start looking at it as a tool to exit the labor trap. Share this perspective with someone who is approaching retirement because they are the most vulnerable. They are about to step off the treadmill and rely entirely on the battery they have spent 40 years charging. If they don't realize the battery is leaking, they will find themselves in a very dark place much sooner than they expected. If the system is a leaky battery, then the movement of wealth is the current. Most people believe wealth moves toward those who work the hardest, but history and the data of 2026 shows us something different. Wealth moves toward the center of productivity. For the last century, the center of productivity was human labor. If you wanted to build a car, a house, or a company, you needed thousands of people because humans were the primary engine of output. A large portion of the world's wealth flowed to them in the form of wages, but we have entered a period where the engine itself is changing. Look at the gap in that chart. Since the 1970s, the world has become exponentially more productive, but the person doing the work hasn't seen the benefit. Why? Because we have transitioned from a labor-intensive economy to a capital-intensive one. In the past, if I wanted to double my company's output, I had to hire double the people. Today, if I want to double my output, I buy more compute. I invest in more AI. I don't need more people, I need more stuff. more capital. This is the winner take all effect. In 2026, we are seeing the rise of superstar firms, companies that use AI and automation to dominate global markets with a fraction of the employees. When a company produces billions in profit with only a few hundred engineers, the wealth doesn't spread through a community in the form of thousands of middle class paychecks. It stays at the top. It concentrates in the hands of the people who own the silicon, the software, and the data. You feel this as status anxiety. You see the cost of living in desirable cities skyrocketing while your wage, no matter how hard you work, seems stuck. This is because you are competing for assets against a concentrated pool of capital that is growing at a much faster rate than your salary. If you are not an owner of the productive engines, you are merely a passenger on someone else's ship. The mistake most people make is focusing on speculation. They see the rise of AI and they try to time the market or chase the latest trend. They are looking for a quick exit. But wealth doesn't move through luck, it moves through the accumulation of productive leverage. Think about the difference between a fisherman and the man who owns the fleet. The fisherman works the hardest. He is out in the cold, battling the waves, risking his life. But at the end of the day, a large portion of his catch goes to the man who owns the boats. In the modern world, the boats are the technology stacks, the real estate in productive hubs, and the intellectual property that scales without human effort. If your income is limited by the number of hours you can physically work, you have no leverage. You are the fisherman. And in 2026, the ocean is being filled with automated trawlers that don't need to sleep. This is where the regret of inaction becomes a reality. People wait for a correction or a return to the old ways. They wait for the world to make sense again. But while they wait, the window of opportunity to acquire these productive assets is shrinking. The price of admission is going up. Every year you spend only trading your time for money is a year you are falling further behind the compounding growth of capital. You must stay engaged with this reality. It is easy to look away because it feels unfair. It is unfair. But the system does not care about fairness. It cares about efficiency. If a machine can do your job more efficiently than you, the system will move the reward from your paycheck to the owner of that machine. This is not a theory. It is the fundamental shift of our era. Rewatch this section if you need to. Understand that the goal is not to work harder at the same task. The goal is to move your life's work from the labor column to the capital column. You need to own a piece of the engine. Most people live their lives clinging to financial ghosts, ideas that were true in 1990 but are mathematically impossible in 2026. They believe that if they are careful, if they avoid risk, they will be safe. But I have learned that in a system undergoing a structural shift, the greatest risk is the refusal to change your mind. The first hard truth is the myth of cash safety. You have been told that cash is king during times of uncertainty. That is a half truth that hides a total lie. Cash is a tool for liquidity, not a store of value. When you hold cash in a bank account, you are effectively holding an insurance policy you hope never to use, but the premium you pay is the guaranteed loss of your purchasing power every single day. In the time it takes you to save for a home, the price of that home, driven by the very money printing we discussed, moves further out of reach. You are tied to a sinking dock while the tide is coming in. The second myth is blind diversification. Most people are taught to spread their risk. They buy a little bit of everything. But in 2026, diversification has become a way to guarantee mediocrity while still being exposed to systemic collapse. If you own a bit of everything, you own the dying sectors of the economy along with the growing ones. You are essentially betting on the average of a world that is becoming increasingly polarized. You are diversifying into the past. True safety does not come from owning 100 different things you don't understand. It comes from owning a few things that are fundamentally indispensable to the future. In my world, we don't look for safe stocks. We look for moats, businesses or assets that are so vital that the world cannot function without them. If you are diversified into businesses that can be replaced by a single line of code or a more efficient AI model, you aren't safe. You are just waiting for your turn to be disrupted. Then there is the trap of timing the market. I see people sitting on the sidelines waiting for the crash so they can finally get in. They have been waiting since 2020. They waited through 2023. Now, in 2026, the prices are higher than ever, and they are still waiting. They don't realize that the crash they are looking for is being hidden by the devaluation of the currency. The nominal price of assets may never go back to where you want it to be because the money itself is worth less. Waiting for a bargain in a devaluing currency is like waiting for the sun to cool down so you can touch it. It won't happen. We must also talk about the trade offs. You cannot have both total security and significant growth. If you want the safety of a government bond or a savings account, you must accept that you are choosing to stay poor relative to the rest of the world. You are choosing to let the system eat your time. To get ahead, you must be willing to be concentrated in your convictions. You must be willing to be uncomfortable. The most uncomfortable truth of all is that the system does not need you as much as it used to. In the 20th century, the system needed your muscles and your basic cognitive labor. Today, it needs your capital or your highly specialized creative output. If you are providing neither, you are becoming irrelevant to the wealth generation machine. This sounds harsh, but I am not here to give you a warm embrace. I am here to give you clarity. You must perform an honest self assessment. Are you holding on to assets that are tied to the old world? Are you relying on a skill set that is being commoditized? Are you staying safe while the bridge you are standing on is being dismantled? True financial freedom in 2026 requires the courage to let go of the common sense of the masses. The masses are almost always wrong at the major turning points of history. If you do what everyone else is doing, you will end up where everyone else is going, which is toward a future of diminishing returns and increasing dependency. Stay with me for the final part. We are going to move past the discomfort and look at the decision you have to make to actually position yourself for the long view. I want you to take a breath. We have looked at the leaks in the system, the shifting tides of capital, and the hard truths that most people spend their entire lives running away from. It can feel overwhelming. It can feel like the world is moving too fast for you to ever catch up. But I have spent my life in the center of high pressure shifts, and I can tell you that clarity only comes when you stop trying to fight the wave and start learning how to ride it. The final decision is not a financial one, it is a philosophical one. You are standing at a fork in the road between two very different ways of being in the world. One path is the path of awareness. This is the path where you accept that the rules have changed. You stop measuring your worth by the hours you labor and start measuring it by the assets you influence. You realize that pain and suffering, the effort of learning a new system, the discomfort of being wrong, the grit required to move your capital into the future is not a sign of failure. It is the price of greatness. I often tell my own people that I wish upon them ample doses of suffering, not because I am cruel, but because resilience is the only thing that will survive 2026. Character is forged in the fire, and in this new economy, your character, your ability to adapt, is your only true protection. The other path is the path of ignorance. This is the comfortable path. It is the path where you keep your head down, work your 40 hours, and trust that the experts or the government will eventually fix the inflation, the housing costs, and the displacement of your skills. This path feels safe today, but it is the most dangerous choice you can make. It is a choice to let the system decide your value. And as we have seen, the system is increasingly deciding that human labor, when not leveraged by capital or technology, is a declining asset. I am not telling you to quit your job or to gamble your life savings on the next trend. I am telling you to change your perspective. Start looking for the engines, whether that is investing in the companies that build the future, acquiring property in productive hubs, or developing a skill set that directs AI rather than competing with it. You must become a builder. You must own a piece of the productivity that is replacing human sweat. In my early days, my company was 30 days from going out of business more times than I can count. We survived because we didn't look at what was happening today. We looked at what would be true 10 years from now. I want you to do the same. If you look at a system as it is, you will see a trap. If you look at it as a long cycle thinker, you will see the greatest wealth transfer in human history. The divide is no longer between the rich and the poor. It is between those who are awake to the new physics of money and those who are still dreaming of 1990. The window to choose is still open, but it is closing. The urgency you feel in your chest right now is not panic. It is your intuition telling you that the old world is gone. You have a choice. You can stay a consumer of this new era, or you can become a participant in it. You can save your money and watch it erode, or you can invest your life into the engines of progress. This is the long view. It is not easy, but it is the only way to reach a place of true, dignified safety. I invite you to subscribe not for the sake of numbers, but to stay engaged with this level of thinking. We are in a marathon, and the terrain is shifting under every step. Don't chase the trends, understand the system. The machine is moving. Where will you be when the cycle completes?